They advertise their triggers. A trained mind hides them. This doesn't mean becoming cold or disconnected. It means choosing when and how you engage. You don't need to win every exchange. You need to win your composure. Being composure changes dynamics. When you don't react, others often escalate. They expect resistance. They expect emotion. When it doesn't come, they lose momentum. You gain it. This is not a tactic. It is a natural consequence of self-control. Reactions also distort reality. When emotions rise, your perception narrows. You hear less. You assume more. You misinterpret intentions. That's why arguments escalate. Two reactive minds create chaos. One controlled mind creates stability. Stability shifts outcomes. The key is not to suppress emotion. Suppression builds pressure. The key is to observe emotion without acting on it. Observation weakens its grip. When you notice a reaction forming, label it internally. Anger, defensiveness, impatience. Labeling creates distance. Distance restores agency. Once you have agency, as you can choose a response aligned with your standards. Sometimes the strongest response is no response. Not avoidance, not fear. Restraint. Restraint is misunderstood. It is not weakness. It is delayed power. Power applied at the right time is far more effective than power applied immediately. This applies everywhere. Conversations, work, conflict, negotiation. Those who react first reveal the most. Those who wait control the frame. Control of the frame means control of the outcome. Mastering reactions also protects your energy. Every emotional reaction costs mental resources. Reactive people are constantly drained. They fight battles that don't matter. Controlled people conserve energy for what does. This conservation compounds. Less regret, less stress, more clarity. Over time, your reactions slow naturally. Not because you are forcing restraint, but because restraint becomes identity. I am someone who does not give power away. That identity is strong. It makes you difficult to destabilize, difficult to rush, difficult to provoke. And in a world full of noise, that is a rare advantage. Control your reactions, and you control more than moments. You control direction, you control reputation, you control outcomes. In the next chapter, you'll learn why mental endurance is built through discomfort and how staying with difficulty creates unbreakable strength. Chapter 5. Build mental endurance. Mental endurance is not about intensity. It is about staying power. Most people can push hard for a short time. Very few can remain consistent when discomfort lingers. That difference decides outcomes. Mental endurance is the ability to remain steady when motivation fades, when results are slow, and when effort feels unrewarded. This is where most people quit. Not because they can't continue, but because they are no longer comfortable. The mind is wired to avoid discomfort. It seeks relief, distraction, and escape. When discomfort appears, untrained minds interpret it as a warning. This isn't working. This is too hard. I should stop. Those thoughts feel convincing, but they are not truth. They are resistance. Resistance appears whenever growth begins. If you stop every time resistance shows up, you train your mind to retreat. Mental endurance is trained by staying present inside discomfort without immediately trying to escape it. This doesn't mean forcing yourself endlessly. It means not quitting at the first sign of unease. Discomfort has levels. Initial discomfort is harmless. It is simply the nervous system adjusting to effort. Quitting too early teaches the mind that effort is dangerous. Staying just a little longer teaches the mind that effort is survivable. That lesson compounds. Endurance grows gradually. You don't become mentally strong through one heroic effort. You become strong through repeated exposure to mild discomfort that you choose not to avoid. This applies beyond physical effort. Mental endurance shows up in focus, in patience, in delayed gratification. Can you stay with a difficult task without checking for relief? Can you tolerate boredom without reaching for distraction? Can you continue when progress feels invisible? These are endurance tests. Modern life trains the opposite. Instant feedback, immediate entertainment, constant stimulation. This weakens the mind's ability to stay with effort. A trained mind resists that pull. It creates boundaries. Not because comfort is evil, but because comfort, when unearned, erodes resilience. Endurance is built by choosing the harder option when the easier one is available. Staying focused instead of switching. Finishing instead of abandoning. Waiting instead of rushing. These choices seem small, but they shape identity. I am someone who stays. That identity changes how you approach challenges. Instead of asking, "How can I escape this?" you ask, "How can I remain steady?" Remaining steady does not mean ignoring limits. It means distinguishing between discomfort and damage. Discomfort strengthens, damage weakens. Learning the difference is part of training. Most people confuse the two because they have never stayed long enough to find out. Mental endurance also protects against emotional collapse. When you are used to discomfort, emotional swings lose their power. Stress becomes familiar. Pressure becomes manageable. This familiarity is calming. You no longer panic when things feel heavy. You trust your capacity to endure. That trust is powerful. It reduces anxiety because anxiety thrives on uncertainty. When you know you can stay with difficulty, you stop fearing it. Endurance also improves decision-making. When you are uncomfortable, the urge to make quick decisions increases. Endurance allows you to wait. Waiting prevents mistakes. Many poor decisions are made not because people lacked intelligence, but because they lacked endurance. They couldn't tolerate uncertainty long enough to see the situation clearly. A mentally enduring person can hold tension without rushing resolution. That ability creates better outcomes. Over time, endurance reshapes your baseline. What once felt exhausting becomes normal, not because it got easier, but because you got stronger. This is the quiet transformation most people never experience because they quit too early. Mental endurance does not seek praise. It does not announce itself. It shows up in consistency. Consistency builds trust. Trust builds momentum. Momentum changes life direction. When you build mental endurance, you stop asking how long it will take. You commit to staying until it's done. That commitment simplifies everything. No more constant evaluation. No more emotional bargaining. Just presence, effort, continuation. Mental endurance is not dramatic. It is reliable, and reliability wins more often than raw intensity ever will. The next chapter will show you how clarity becomes possible even in chaos when your mind is trained to cut through noise. Mental endurance also changes how you relate to failure. Untrained minds see failure as a signal to stop. They personalize it. They attach meaning too quickly. This proves I'm not good enough. This isn't for me. I always end up here. Those conclusions feel logical in the moment, but they are shortcuts. A mind with endurance does not rush to meaning. It stays with the experience longer. It separates outcome from identity. Failure becomes data, not a verdict. This distinction is critical. When failure attacks identity, people quit to protect their ego. When failure is treated as information, people adjust and continue. Mental endurance allows you to absorb setbacks without collapsing inward. You feel disappointment, but you don't spiral. You feel frustration, but you don't abandon the process. This emotional stability comes from repeated exposure to effort that didn't immediately pay off. Over time, your nervous system learns a new lesson. Setbacks are survivable. That lesson reduces fear. Fear shrinks ambition. Endurance expands it. And another overlooked aspect of mental endurance is silence. Silence is uncomfortable for many people. They fill it with noise, opinions, complaints, distractions. A mind with endurance can sit in silence without agitation. This matters more than it sounds. Silence sharpens perception. It reveals patterns. It exposes unnecessary thoughts. When you are always stimulated, your mind never strengthens its ability to hold focus. Endurance includes the ability to stay with your own thoughts without escaping them. This is why disciplined routines matter. Simple routines remove decision fatigue. They reduce the mental load of choosing again and again. When effort is predictable, endurance increases. You don't waste energy deciding whether to continue. Continuation becomes default. This also protects against burnout. Burnout is often mistaken for exhaustion. In reality, it is inconsistency, starting intensely, stopping suddenly, restarting with guilt. That cycle drains energy faster than steady effort ever could. Mental endurance breaks that cycle. It favors pace over bursts, consistency over extremes. A steady pace is sustainable. This is especially important in long-term goals, careers, relationships, personal growth. Anything meaningful requires time. If your mind is not trained to endure boredom, frustration, and slow progress, you will sabotage yourself repeatedly. Endurance also teaches humility. When you stay with something long enough, you realize how much you don't control. This realization is grounding. It reduces arrogance. It reduces impatience. You stop demanding instant results and start respecting process. Process thinking is a mark of maturity. Immature minds ask, "What do I get from this today?" Enduring minds ask, "Who am I becoming through this?" That question changes priorities. You stop chasing short-term validation. You start building long-term capacity. Capacity matters more than talent. Talent without endurance is wasted potential. Endurance without talent still produces results. This is why endurance levels the playing field. It allows ordinary people to achieve extraordinary outcomes simply by staying longer than others are willing to. Most competition disappears when endurance is high, not because others are weak, but because they opt out. They choose comfort. They choose distraction. They choose relief. You choose to stay. Staying rewires identity. I don't quit when it gets uncomfortable. I don't need immediate reward. I can handle this. Those beliefs become self-fulfilling. Your tolerance grows, your confidence stabilizes, your reactions soften. Mental endurance also improves patience with others. When you can tolerate internal discomfort, external frustration loses intensity. You become less reactive to delays, mistakes, and imperfections. This makes you easier to work with, stronger in leadership, and calmer in conflict. People feel safe around those who are not easily shaken. That safety creates influence. Influence does not come from force. It comes from steadiness. Steadiness is endurance made visible. As you continue this training, remember this. Endurance is built quietly. No one applauds consistency. No one celebrates patience. But life rewards it relentlessly. Those who can stay present, stay disciplined, and stay engaged outlast those who rely on intensity alone. Mental endurance is not glamorous. It is effective, and effectiveness is what wins in the long run. Chapter 6. Think clearly in chaos. Chaos does not destroy outcomes. Confusion does. Most people assume chaos means disorder outside of them. Too many tasks, too many opinions, too much information. In reality, chaos becomes dangerous only when it enters the mind. A chaotic environment can still be navigated by a clear mind. A calm environment becomes useless when the mind is scattered. This is why clarity is not dependent on conditions. It is dependent on training. Untrained minds react to chaos by speeding up. They rush decisions. They multitask. They consume more information, hoping clarity will appear. It never does. More input without structure creates more noise. A trained mind does the opposite.